All right, what's up, Bachelor Brigade? That sounds so dumb too. What's up, Bachelor Squad? The Ryan and Jacob Show is back for another episode of the BachPod, where we are certainly not sponsored by Pure Life Tea, but I think maybe if their CEO scrolls by the fat 13 views we got on our last video, they might be calling soon. I don't know. Um, anyway, let's get into this crazy episode. I'll let you start. We'll start with this opening scene that we knew was coming. Katie leaves us off on the last episode, basically snitching on the bullies, and we open it up with this scene. Take it away.
Yeah, so the scene starts with Matt giving his usual toast, and then he calls about the bullying that's been going on, and then you could just see Anna's face just be like, "Oh my god!" And same with Victoria. Both their faces were just like,
she knew
"Oh crap, something's gonna happen." So I think he takes Brittany first, the new girl. He actually takes her first, and she starts, crying and bawling and kind of telling them really what Katie was telling them last episode about her being called names and stuff like that. So then the real thing comes when Anna walks in and starts talking to Matt, and it was just a tense conversation. You could just feel the tense. And one of the quotes Anna said that she felt bad for saying that, and she did not feel bad. She felt bad that she got caught.
Dude,
and
she
then
acted like she only said it like as an off comment and then regretted it. But she said it to like 4 different people. There's absolutely no way you felt bad about it, and you knew exactly what you were doing the whole time.
Right, and like I gotta give it to Matt though. The way he handled that situation was perfect. I don't think he could have handled that situation any better. He, says, Anna, this isn't the way I want my house ran. Like, you need to leave. And I mean, he didn't say it that harshly, but it gave the girls like their ears perked up because they saw Anna walking away and like, oh my God, she's like leaving. And I think he just handled it so perfectly. You got to give kudos to Matt on that one.
He did, yeah. And actually, it was crazy because during that conversation, he had said to her, when she was like, "Oh, I feel horrible," all this stuff, and he was like, "You're not a horrible person. I've said stuff like that before that I regret." Like, I thought maybe he was gonna give her that second chance, but like, I think he handled it perfectly too because I mean, she was clearly someone that he couldn't see himself with in the future, obviously, because she was being a bitch. But yeah, I think he handled that really well. And when all those other girls saw Anna leave, oh man, did some people start panicking.
Namely Victoria.
Absolutely. Victoria starts walking around talking about like this and that, about all the shit that went down. She's scared. She knows she's in some deep shit. And honestly, that was probably one of my favorite parts of this whole episode was seeing Victoria just in a complete panic. And then she starts going around talking to all these girls, asking them how she's made them feel and all this shit.
Yeah, it wasn't just Victoria. There were so many other girls. I didn't really name anybody else, but Victoria was the main person. But they would go around to the newer girls and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry if I made you feel this way." Everyone was just apologizing to like the newer girls. And it was just like, I mean, you're only apologizing now because of what happened to Anna. And then, you see Katie just sitting there just like, it's what happens. Like, I don't need to apologize. I'm the reason this happens. But nobody knows that. I still don't think everybody knows that Katie was the tattletale on there. I think she actually kind of flew under the radar with that one.
At this point, no.
Right.
But yeah, like you said, everyone's kind of scrambling around, especially going to the new girls with the apologies. Yep. And I feel like they kind of interviewed a couple of the new girls, Ryan and Catalina, and they can see through the BS. Like they do. You guys, you're running back with your tail between your legs now because you saw somebody got kicked off for being an asshole. And now you're like, oh man, I was an asshole too. I hope I don't leave. Like, it's exactly what happened. It was honestly kind of cringeworthy to see everybody scrambling to apologize, but you're right. I mean, Katie sat there like a G. She knew exactly what was going on. And I think at that point, was that when Victoria...
After that, Matt took Ryan.
Right.
And then Ryan snitched on Victoria. No, not snitched, but just told her about some toast that Victoria gave. And then Victoria calling her a hoe.
Yeah.
And that's when Victoria got her one-on-one, which she probably didn't want. And Matt was talking to Victoria about how Ryan was talking. Well, actually, no. Ryan actually talked to Victoria before Victoria talked to Matt about what Ryan said to Matt. And that's when Victoria was like, "Oh, I'm just playing around. Like, I'm so lighthearted." Like, no, like, what are you talking about? So then
I'm
she
so
goes and
goofy.
right. And then another funny quote with Victoria was she was apologizing to Catalina, and Catalina walked in with the crown the first night, or her first night.
Yeah.
And she brought that up. And she's like, "Oh, I was just playing around. Like, I'm just that type of person that just wants to have fun." I'm like, if you watch back that like replay, there's no way she thought that was like lighthearted and she was having fun. Like, she really snatched that crown and was like, "That's mine. Like, I'm the queen,"
No, if she didn't see Anna get kicked off for being a bitch, she definitely wouldn't have said a single word about that crown incident, because she definitely meant every single word of that. And it all blew up in her face. And it was just honestly just a beautiful thing to see.
It was beautiful.
I really loved it. But yeah, so cut back to Ryan and Matt. She pulls them out. She has an emotional conversation with him because she doesn't appreciate being called a hoe. Who would?
Right.
And Matt's like, another situation. Oh man, I can't believe this is happening. I don't get to see this, which I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he doesn't get to see anything that goes on behind closed doors. So then, he pulls Victoria in. She starts saying like, "Oh, I when I said that, I was just playing around. It wasn't really like that." And he straight up looked at her and he was like, "I mean, in what way is that like in a playful manner that you say that?" And she was like,
she didn't have anything to say.
Yeah, like got him.
Yep.
Like, oh my God, he put the hammer down, and then at that point he's like, "Yeah, I gotta think about this." And
Ryan and left.
Right there, he's decided that. I'm surprised he didn't kick her out right then and there like he did Anna. I don't exactly understand why he took that all the way to the rose ceremony, but it doesn't matter because it all ended in the same. And this opening scene was just absolutely wild.
It was fun. Yeah, it was fun to watch, and you knew it was coming. Like, that's the thing, like that anticipation. Like, you knew something was going to happen, and it just played perfectly with Victoria going to be get kicked out, and then Anna getting kicked out. And like, he actually dropped the hammer with kicking those two girls out. But then we go to the rose ceremony. It was funny. The thing about the rose ceremony was the two new girls, Brittany and Ryan, I think were the first two to get the roses.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So like, you could just see other girls just like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
and from
especially like Victoria.
Right then and there, he sets the tone for exactly how this rose ceremony is about to go.
And it was gonna get crazy because all the two of the new girls got roses. But there was 5 girls that went home. Anna was one of them. Victoria was another. Mari, which was I think the biggest surprise. I wasn't expecting Mari to go home, but Mari goes home. Catalina goes home, and then Kayla goes home. And like I said, and like you just said, I think Mari was the most surprising out of those 5. But looking back at last podcast, you called Anna was going to go home, and you called, who else did you call?
Maggie
was going to go home, and then I called Victoria and Jasenia going home. We were 1 for 2 each, but
50% from the field. We'll take that any day of the week. Pretty good snipes by us, I'll say. I mean, I really just didn't expect both of them to go home because, again, like we've been talking about all season, that's a lot of views right there with the drama, the comments, and the saltiness. I mean, we lost a lot of good content in this episode, sending those two home, but I think it was for the better good. I mean, end of the day, the show, I mean, it is to entertain, but it's also like, the main purpose is to find love, I suppose, for somebody. But I was actually also very surprised that Kayla went home. I did not see that one coming. I know they haven't had like a good bonding time over the last couple episodes, but I was surprised to see that. I was surprised to see that Serena C stays in the game.
She got the last one. Yeah, she got the last rose.
Another girl that I just don't see with a connection with Matt. I hardly ever see them talking.
Right.
So very surprised to see her stay. And like you said, Mari, was the biggest shock to see her go. That was pretty wild. But one thing I want to point out is as Victoria leaves and she
Gotta
comes
talk
up
about
to
that.
Matt and she says all her shit, Matt death stares her peeks into her fucking soul, doesn't say a single word, just stands there and looks at her until eventually she just walks away.
Yeah, she didn't say one word to her.
That is television gold right there. That was probably the best moment of this entire season so far, was that 3-second silent stare from Matt to Victoria as she goes home. Beautiful.
Right. And it's interesting to see, like, before the rose ceremony, she was just talking about how she loved Matt and like that's her husband and that's his wife. Like, she was talking about her being a wife to Matt all this time. And then when she gets kicked out after, she does that and Matt doesn't say a word, then she keeps talking like, oh, he doesn't deserve me. He can't handle me. I'm the queen. He's a jester and stuff like that. I'm just like, okay, well, you're just a two-faced. It doesn't matter.
I hate him. I'll never date a guy named Matt.
Yeah. He did say that. She said that name's ruined for me and stuff like that. I'm just like, oh my God. Well, I'm glad she's off the show. And hopefully the show kind of starts taking off, but we'll see another villain kind of form here in the next couple minutes or the next, in the show. But we go into the next day, and the first solo date goes to Rachel.
Yep.
And it was fun to see, like, she's from Georgia, he's from Georgia. They have that Georgia connection. And it was a pretty good date. I mean, they went shopping. Nothing really spectacular happened, but she got to try on all these different outfits. I'm sure that was pretty cool for her. She looked pretty good in all outfits. I think my favorite one was like the black and white one that showed. Did you have a favorite of one of her outfits?
I thought the orange one was pretty sick, showing the Bears colors. But them red bottoms that she put on at the end, was hot.
Those are not like $600 shoes right there.
Yeah, she looked like she had absolutely never seen a pair of those. I mean, put them on, which was pretty cool to see. And then the fact that she gets to take all these clothes home,
right,
but also carry it all in front of the entire group while they're sitting there. I mean, I know that was probably planned, but wow, what a devious move by the producers there. Because, I mean, how are you any other girl watching her walk in with all this shit and not just fuming with jealousy?
Right. And I think that's kind of a foreshadow for the rest of the episode, because I feel like this episode was a lot of jealous feelings starting to come out for every single girl, especially the group date. We'll talk about the group date. But like, that was just a little foreshadowing, because all these girls are just like, just so pissed they didn't get the date, of course. And then she's coming in with like $600 shoes, probably thousands of dollars worth of clothes. Like, so many girls would want to just go on a shopping spree like that. And that just made everyone so much more jealous. And I mean, it was a good date, and I think she did pretty well. But then we go to the dinner portion of the day, and that's when things kind of start getting pretty juicy with their conversations. Yeah.
Intense AF.
So they're talking, and like, she's kind of opening up about how she's like, I think she said she's never been in love or something like that. And like, she's just kind of closed off because of herself, and she has, self-confidence problems. Yeah.
Don't we?
And
don't we?
Yeah, exactly. And then she's kind of started more talking about like falling in love with them and seeing this to the end. And he kind of reciprocated by saying things like how she sees her like going that far and just starting to fall in love. And using that L word is kind of crazy.
He said that he was starting to fall in love with her too. And I was like, whoa,
yes.
You still got like 14 other gals back at the house that are not ready for you to be saying that to one person. And I mean, I think that kind of speaks to possibly some of his inexperience on the show, but also maybe he's really feeling it. I mean, because I feel like he's got some like at least like 4 to 5 really strong connections compared to some weaker ones. I wouldn't have put Rachel at the top of that list. I mean, I know that she's probably one of the stronger ones, but I don't know if I would have put her at the top. And for him to say something like that, like, I don't know, man. That was pretty wild. I thought so too. The fact that he said that was very surprising to me.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's like she loves to hear that right now, but then
Right.
just wait for the next episode where he gets another solo date with a girl, and she's like, "Oh man, like we had such a great like all these other girls who had solo dates before are now starting to be like, oh man, this kind of sucks. Like I know
Yeah.
I probably won't get another solo date for a while. Like I gotta fight for him for these other girls. Like this kind of sucks. So she's gonna feel that here soon, and I wonder how she's gonna take it because I think all the girls have taken it pretty okay, except kind of when we'll talk about the group date, Michelle kind of started breaking down because that was her first and only date, and then she gets to the group date, and now she's like, oh man, this is actually how the show is supposed to go. But I mean, Katie feels good; she's on top of the world, right? Or not Katie? Rachel feels good; she's on top of the world right now, and I mean, I'm not going to beat her down. Like she just had a good date, and I guess we'll see how that
Yeah.
relationship goes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not faulting her for saying what she
Yeah,
said.
it's more him.
But also, what I think is like, and I mean, how do you not get caught in the moment with all these
Right.
these dates are so planned to be so romantic and it's
Yeah,
such
beautiful.
an experience. Like, why not send these people on a date like where they just come home from work and have to spend the night with each other? Then we'll see who's really got a love connection, okay? Because
Right.
we just went and had a fashion show and I got all these new clothes and then we went out to this nice dinner and it's like, well, of course you're going to be feeling some type of
Right.
way about this person. You could have spent that time with almost anybody and you're feeling that way. But I mean, I think I was just noticing this, like with all these one-on-one dates, is like they're really set up. Of course, people are going to be feeling super strongly after these intense experiences.
Yeah, and like we said last episode, like we haven't seen a bad one-on-one date. Like there's been
Right.
no bad ones, and even like the next person who gets a one-on-one, which is Kit, like that date went well, and we'll talk about that. It's like, and we still have not seen a bad one-on-one date, and I'm sure that's going to start coming. But yeah, I agree with you. These dates are very romantic and very, very, just very great to be on,
Yeah.
and it's hard to not get caught up in the moment. But
Right.
you
Which
know, it's
is
gonna come
great.
crashing.
I mean, it's not like a bad thing. Like that's awesome that you get
Right.
to experience this with this person. I mean, this is building like forever for whoever wins. I mean, you guys are gonna have like great memories. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, everything is designed to be like some of these super awesome experiences. And yeah, and it's just how do you not catch feels for somebody going through that? But speaking of awesome experiences, let's go into the group date, which was kind of a shitty experience, no pun intended, where he brings all like damn near everybody, like 12, 13 of them, and they go to this farm and they just have to start shoveling shit. There's a group date for
Yep. Yep. And the funniest part about the group date, that portion of the group date, was when I think he threw like an egg at MJ, and
It
like
was
they
an
started
egg
chasing
toss.
each
They were
other.
tossing, and she
Okay, there
just
was an egg
sucks it.
toss.
Egg toss.
Yeah, and so it gets all over, and then he starts running away, and then he goes like into the barn, and then out of the barn, Piper's doing like a promo or like a just like an interview, and he just starts
promo.
chowing. Yeah, he just starts making up with her, and then MJ comes around the corner, and she's just like,
You say
okay,
chowing? You
yes,
just said chowing down on her?
chowing down on her, making out with her, and MJ's like, okay, this is kind of awkward. And like that was the funniest thing that happened. Nothing really else happened in that portion of the group date. But you could, but other girls started to get jealous. Like I said, Michelle, the new girl that got the one-on-one first, and now is on her first group date, starts. I think she actually starts crying, and it's like, okay, this is like so different from like a one-on-one experience. Like this is a show right here. Like you have to compete now with 12, 13 shows. True Color starts to at least show for Michelle, and I think, like we said, the jealousy thing was kind of throughout the episode, and I think that was a big portion of it.
Yeah, and who other to come up and comfort Michelle during this terrible time of need but our one and only Katie, the double G, comes up and just kind of consoles her and tells her that she hasn't really had that one-on-one experience yet, and just kind of relates to the fact of that she's only been on group dates. And Michelle kind of was set up for this because she got that, again, super romantic one-on-one day, hot air balloon,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ, Romance City, gets that, and then has to go on this group date where they're shoveling shit together. I'd be a little disappointed too, you know. But I mean, Katie steps up once again, plays the mom basically, and kind of consoles her a little bit, gets her out of the funk, talks her out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like a lot of girls in this episode were kind of starting to, like you said, feel that jealousy. We had a few interviews where people are just talking about how tough it is, like that they're dating. They don't realize, like, oh yeah, I'm dating this guy, and so are like 15 other girls, and it's like, I mean, that's the name of the game, and you signed up for it. What you expect?
Right.
I mean,
and
yeah,
Katie was one.
Suck.
Yeah, Katie was one of those girls. Like she was kind of not really complaining, but she did not get a lot of FaceTime this episode, which I think is crap because of how well she's been doing. I feel like she should be getting a one-on-one here soon, and just to see if that connection is sparks. But the FaceTime she did get was either consoling Michelle or like saying, "Oh, how I haven't got a one-on-one." And I think she's starting to kind of build that jealousy up too, and she's kind of starting to show that. And I think it's kind of crap just because she's been that one person for Matt can rely on, like with gossip around the house. And I think she deserves a one-on-one and see if sparks fly. Yeah, to the point, Katie needs, I'm going to call her right now. Katie gets a one-on-one next year. Like I said, I don't know. Haven't seen any of this next episode. I haven't seen any of the previews, so I'm just going to call Katie. Hopefully gets one of the one-on-ones next day. But if we go to the cocktail hour, not the cocktail hour, the after party. Party of this one. I mean, the one person who really shined and got the rose was Abigail. She hasn't really shined at all since like episode 1 when she got the first impression rose.
Yep.
And she kind of just, shined again. Like she's another one that hasn't got a one-on-one date, but she's shined in, the first episode. She's kind of been lagging behind now, but now she shines again. So I feel like she's going to be another one with a one-on-one here soon. But I think that was a nice conversation. Again, talking about how she's deaf and just opening up that way. And Matt really seems to buy into it, not buy into it, but likes it.
The big point that she brought up was that her dad walked out on them, which was a big relatable point because Matt had the same situation with his dad, raised by a single mom too. So they really bonded over that. I think that was kind of what sealed the deal for basically the connection of the night. Gets Abigail Rose. They seem to pretty much hit it off every time they have that one-on-one together, and anytime they have time alone, it seems like it's very good. And I would put Abigail, like I said, in that like top 5 where he has real strong connections with. I would put her on that list. But yeah, that was good to see. I feel like Abigail is kind of a crowd favorite. Talked to a lot of people that watch the show, and everybody is like, oh man, Abigail's my girl. Like we love Abigail. Like she's awesome. But yeah, she hasn't got a lot of FaceTime, but when she does, she makes it happen,
Yeah.
I will point out that my girl Maggie, who I've been saying all along, again, no FaceTime. No FaceTime. Absolutely none. Why? I don't understand. She's still around. I called it last episode that she was going home. I'm going to call it again this one. I think Maggie's time is coming to an end. I don't dislike her, but I don't see them having that. Like they got nothing.
I tend to agree with you on that one because it's just like you said, no FaceTime at all. Maggie's time is probably coming to an end here next episode. I'll piggyback on you on that one. But after this, you kind of start to see another rivalry form within MJ and Justenia. Matt and MJ started talking, and Matt was like, "Oh, well, your character kind of got into question by somebody," and then MJ came back to the group date and said, "Okay, laid down like who did it? Let's talk about it." And then Jasenio's the bigger person and admitted it. And they started talking, and nobody really was listening to each other. They were just kind of talking at each other. And then, of course, we'll get to this at the end of the podcast. But then they have like a face-off that Matt, says, "Oh, I want you two to come before all the other girls." And then they, keep talking. But we'll get into that. But we'll get into the Kits date now. And I thought this was a really cool date. Nothing too extravagant. Yeah, nothing extravagant. No helicopter rides, no airplanes, no, another thing I want to admit, there was no shirtless scene to that this week.
Oh, good call.
No shirtless.
Our first wait, was there one in the episode 1?
No, there was.
Our first episode with no shirtless scene. Huge.
So I just wanted to say that because I did write that down. But yeah, like I said, Kids Day wasn't extravagant. It was just like a stay at home, let's cook. And it really, I think, spoke more to Kit because she said to, I think it was Rachel when, everyone was on the group date that, she told him how much it meant to her to be in the kitchen with her mom. And I think this was just a perfect date for Kit. And it kind of alludes to your point with it's just like, you want to have a date with like, just come home after work and, spend the night with somebody. Let's see how they do there. I mean, this kind of emulated that into a point just because they're at home cooking, but not really impressive work or anything. But it was just a cool date. I thought it was a cool date.
I want to see a date where dude comes home after a long ass day out in the field and he's just pissed off at everybody and the girl's got to deal with that. Like, no, that's real life. But anyway, like that's not what this show is. That's just a funny thought to think about. But you're right. This was a super romantic date for them. Like you said, Kit said to Rachel that her and her mom love to cook. She loves being in the kitchen. And so it seems like this was a perfect setup for Kit, perfect one-on-one. And it looked like it went super well. I mean, they made dessert first. It's kind of gross.
I think that's the only thing they made.
Dessert person. But yeah, we didn't really see any other making anything. Yeah, so it was a super good date. I mean, Kit hasn't really shined, I wouldn't say so far, but I think that kind of pushed her up into that strong list they've obviously got a great connection now. They had a pretty good night. He was, as you would say, chowing down on her after dinner.
I do want to say one thing about Kit. I don't think Kit will win the competition. I think she's a little too young. I think she will go far. I think she's perfect Bachelor in Paradise material, young, beautiful girl. I think she's more of the Paradise. I think I'm going to call that right now that I think she might get like top 5 or 6, but I think she'll be on the next Paradise or whenever Paradise that she can be on. I think she'll be on that. So I'll take that prediction to the grave.
We'll call that the way too early Bachelor in Paradise predictions. I like it.
There you go.
Pulling up a new segment. Okay. All right. I don't hate the call. I'm gonna go ahead and disagree for fun, but we'll see what happens. I think you're right though along the lines of her not making it all the way. I don't know if it's just because she's too young or if it's because I think he has stronger connections with other people, because I think they have a strong one too, but maybe her age plays into that. I mean, he's what, 29?
27, 28?
27, she's 21. I mean, it's not
terrible. Not crazy, right?
I mean, it's not a crazy age gap. She can drink legally, But yeah, I don't know. I kind of tend to agree that I don't think she's going to get all the way there, but we could be shocked. She could end up on Paradise, in which, I don't know, we'll give you a cookie or something.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Kit and Matt have a great one-on-one, and then that kind of leads us into our final act of the episode, which is Yesenia v. MJ, the SmackDown that was forming after the group date. And we have both of them getting ready to go, ready to throw hands. MJ especially, she big hair, big hoops, big energy. MJ, she looks like she's ready to come throw some ones. What did you think of the showdown at the end?
Yeah, I mean, they needed that rivalry. They sparked up a rivalry here with Yesenia and MJ, and I don't know, like they were talking, they were face to face. There's a rose right in the middle of the table. So, they're talking and all I see is that rose. So I feel like when Matt comes in, there's going to be like, okay, I only have one rose and it's going to only one of you ladies. So like, tell me what the truth is. And before Matt comes in though, like MJ was kind of being a bitch to Yesenia. Like she kept saying like, don't talk over me, while she continued to talk over Yesenia the whole time. So it's just like, I'm on Yesenia's side on this. I don't like MJ. Like, and the craziest line of the night against these two was Yesenia saying, I see 3 sides of you. One when you were with Matt, one when the cameras are on, and one when you're with all the girls. And that's kind of true. Like the way we seen MJ portrayed, like she does have different sides of her. And I think that was just a great like line that Yesenia had.
Right, because whenever she's with Matt, it seems like she's an awesome person. She's like super nice and relatable. But yeah, every time she's around the girls, or when she was back with Anna and Victoria, she was toxic AF, just like them.
Mhm.
And then you see it with their whole conversation with Yesenia and MJ. There's something about her that is just radiating negative energy.
Yeah.
Like, girl, you need to chillax,
Yeah.
all right? Because it ain't that deep. I understand that Yesenia may have said some shit about you, but it was all true. And
Yeah.
I thought one of the funniest things was Yesenia was like, "We'll see it all when it plays back," basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we've all seen it already. We know exactly what you said, and you're just lying. Now
Right.
she didn't say what she said. Yeah, I don't know. MJ has become the new worst. So
Right.
we kind of hope that. I kind of hope that Yesenia is the one that pulls out of this thing. I don't know what's going to happen. Matt doesn't get to see a lot of the shit that we get to see behind closed doors. Like you just said, MJ has a side that is different when she's around Matt. That's the only side he's seen. So it's going to be really interesting, I think, to see how this conversation plays out. And we're set up for some juice next episode.
So who do you think? I know who you want to get the rose out of those two, but who do you think is actually going to get the rose? Do you think MJ's persona around Matt's going to lead him to pick MJ just because of how cool she's been around Matt, or do you think he sees through it and gives it to Yesenia?
Who's a better arguer? Okay, that's a huge question, because almost at this point, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. It's who's more convincing and who can portray their point in a better way. So conversation skills are going to be huge here. I can't remember what each of their professions are. Neither of them are queens, but
one's a hairstylist. MJ's a
hairstylist. She talks to people a lot. She's probably got some good combo skills. I don't know what Yesenia does, but I hope that she can. I hope that she can pull through on this. But honestly, it's anyone's game at this point. I feel like I don't know what's gonna. Matt obviously wants to give both of them a chance, or that he wouldn't have put them in this situation, or the producers wanted to have like a showdown, rock 'em, box 'em. But I don't know. I don't know who's gonna pull out of this. I hope it's Yesenia, but Victoria stayed around for 4 weeks, so anything could happen.
Yeah, because MJ, like you said, MJ might be the new worst. So, like, do you want her to stay a couple more weeks just for those views and things like that?
Do we need a villain?
Right. I don't know. Like, I think the producers would want one just again because more views. So I honestly think Yesenia's going home. I don't want Yesenia going home. I think Yesenia does go home. And just so I'm a little different from you, I think Maggie is one to go home, but I'm also going to pick Serena C. I think she's finally, her time's up. No FaceTime. I don't have like a real, like a jaw-dropping person to like, oh, I know she's, everyone's favorite, but I think she's going home. So I think I'm going with like the pack here, and I think Serena, Maggie. I'm going to go with Yesenia. I think the votes would be, if we gauge the vote, people would think MJ's going home, but I think I'm going to go with Yesenia going home from that battle.
I'm going to just hope that MJ does go home. I mean, Yesenia's going to be spitting facts the whole time, and it's just, again, like I said, it's going to depend who's really more convincing and who can portray their point better. We'll see. If MJ gets triggered during the conversation, I think Matt's gonna gone. But we'll see. And I definitely think Maggie's going home. I was gonna say Serena C, but you picked her, and now I don't know. I don't really have another one. Maybe there's one that's gonna happen out of left field that we don't see coming.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who else really is in the house right now that's not getting a lot of FaceTime. Maybe Ryan. They don't have a huge connection. Great name. It's got a great name. They don't have a great connection. They had that little moment where she was talking about, her getting called a hoe by Victoria, which was a nice moment. But they haven't really had a connection moment. And I think she could possibly be on the chopping block too. But before we close this out, we're getting towards the end here. I do want to say, in the previews for the next episode, we saw a couple of flashes of Katie getting in some heat. And I don't know
I don't watch previews, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, how do you not? It's at the end of the episode. You just
I just turn
cut
it
real
off.
quick. Oh, okay.
I
Well, maybe I
do.
need to start doing that. Okay. All right. So maybe I shouldn't talk about it. I'm going to talk about it anyway. So we saw a couple clips of Katie getting in some heat, and I'm a bit nervous for my girl, but I hope she can keep that double G status. I'm sure she's going to handle it like a champ,
Yeah.
but we'll see. It should be interesting. The next episode is going to be pretty good, I think.
I hope.
I hope so too. But all right, with that, we will go ahead and wrap this thing up. That's BachPod Ep 4. Hope everybody's liking the pod, all 13 of you. Any suggestions? Any comments? Leave them or don't. Tell us we suck. Text me that I suck. Whatever. Do whatever you want to do. Just say something. But yeah, that we'll catch you guys next week.
Peace.